Hi, I'm Steve Gompertz of QRx Partners, and welcome to this week's Quality Heretic. My topic this week is training effectiveness. Uh, I wrote an article on this a couple of years ago for our website, and it's something I still see that gets misinterpreted a lot as to what this is actually intended to be and what the right way to do it really is. Um, Too often, well, let's talk about the nature of training first, right? The real requirement is that you have to have competent resources to perform processes within your QMS. And training is one of the means of creating competence. We often talk about, remember that training is not a requirement in any standard or regulation. Competence is. And training, as it says here, right, is one of the ways in which you could do that, among other things, education, and there are a variety of things you could do besides training. But obviously, we typically do training of personnel on the processes and the activities, the work they need to do. So then the question is, all right, if you do that, whatever actions you take to establish competence, you're required to prove, right, that those things work, that they were effective at creating that competence. And so you have to go back to the idea that the whole point of having competent resources is to ensure that the processes that those resources are focused on or participate in are effective. By effective, we mean that they're conforming, right? That they do the work as designed or intended, and that the results are what we need them to be. That's an effective process. Conformance and results are achieved. So, with that in mind, then what does it mean to ensure that if training is effective in ensuring we have competent resources to make sure the process is effective? Very commonly, right, when I do audits, when I work with clients, and just talk with people, quizzes, right? We do some training and then we give them a quiz. All right. We give them some training and then we go watch them do the work. Then, the next time they do it. Or we just rely on, hey, we do annual audits, and so the auditors will take a look at that and they'll confirm whether or not they're doing what they were taught to do. All right, those sound great. They sound like that's a way to confirm that the training worked, but the reality is they are not. Okay. We talk a lot about verification versus validation. All of those things I just mentioned are forms of verification. They just confirm that people are doing what we said we need them to do, or that they understood the training. Or, sorry, not even understood. Well, understood it to some degree, but remembered it is a big part of it. They retained it. Effectiveness is more like validation. Okay. When we talk about doing verification, it's just confirming that we did what we said we were going to do, regardless of whether what we did or said we were going to do was correct. We can now confirm we did it. Validation then tells us, well, did that effort, whatever we did it produce the right results? And that's what we're trying to figure out here. Did the training produce the right results in the process, right? Which has to be effective. So really, you should be thinking in terms of what would constitute validation, not verification. Having everybody sign in on a training attendance sheet is not training effectiveness, right? That is purely verification. And I have seen that, unfortunately, as the rationale for our training was effective because everybody was there. Right? That doesn't really tell the story either, right? That one's very flawed. Um, so when we look at quizzes, and a lot of times the quiz is given right after. Okay. All right, great. So you've confirmed that the person stayed awake through the training or remembered what was says. I've seen other places where you can't take the quiz until 2 weeks later. Again, it just shows that you're retaining it. Doesn't mean they're applying it or applying it correctly or well, right? Proficiency becomes a topic here. And observations and audits are just right. They're a sampling at a point in time, right? You go, all right, we trained you. We're going to come out tomorrow. We're going to watch you do the work and make sure you do it as we just trained you to do. Yep, good. We're happy you did it exactly as you were trained to do. You don't know that that's going to continue when you walk away, right? Or that when whatever variables occur, that they will know the right thing to do, right? And therefore still make the process effective. So those things don't really tell you that your training was all that effective. It kind of just tells you the training got done and all right, they heard you, all right, but they don't necessarily apply it or do it well. It's the process that matters here, right? The whole goal of having competent resources, again, perform work is so that the process will be effective. So you're not trying to figure out whether the people are that competent. That's not what training effectiveness is whether it resulted in the right process performance. So if you, right, I mean, how many times do we see it in Kappa where the corrective action is to retrain everybody? Not a great choice, but if that's your choice, then you better prove that that retraining improved the process. Okay. Again, it's not about the people, it's you're going to look at the process and how it's performing. If the metrics are better, then you can make the connection go, well, then it seems like retraining worked. Okay. But as you add new employees, of course, if the process goes back to performing badly, then you got to wonder what's going on there. But that's the idea, is it's not about the people. You're not trying to measure the people, right? You want to measure the process. And that's the way it is in all things in the quality system, right? It's always about the process, right? That's why it's a process approach. It's why your metrics are supposed to be focused on the process, not the people. Think of the people as tools, mechanisms, components, right? Materials to be used, right? Yes, there's some metrics that matter in that area, but the real ones that have, impact is measuring how the process performs. Is it being followed correctly? And does following that process produce the needed results? That's what you're trying to measure. You measure the process as you do training and then look for it. Did the process metrics change coincidental to when training occurred or reoccurred? And that will tell you whether or not your training is effective. So, as always, process over people. Don't blame people because the process isn't working. Something else is going on in the process that enables that. As always, love to see your comments, get a good conversation going on this. Tell me, how do you guys handle this? And let's get some good debate going. Otherwise, I'll see you at the next Quality Heretic.